This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Now let's get into the show.
Hello, buddy. Welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzo, a firefighter EMT training officer from Madison, Wisconsin, here as your host. With me, as always, is my co-host, the captain, the editor-in-chief, Janelle Fosquet. Janelle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm a little sentimental. I'm a little excited, way excited. Today is the chief that made it possible for me to get hired at my current location in Madison, Wisconsin. He sat there and asked me the difficult questions and then wound up hiring me full time. It is Chief Jim Keiken, who is now with Illinois Fire Safety Institute. And he actually, believe it or not, folks, was raised in a house like a block away from mine in a small little town called Lodi, Wisconsin. So we were just talking about that. Chief, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on the show, and good to see you again, Janelle.
You too. And can I jump in as an editor for just a second and say
Of
it's the
course.
Illinois Fire Service Institute?
Yeah. Yes. See? Right. We always know that there's a back end story, Chief, about how I will overthink and mess up a lot of names. And of course, this is one where I knew I would mess up. But anyways,
Just say IFSI.
I see, and that one I still can't do. IFSI. Uh, but happy to have you here. Now, your career actually started in Lodi, Wisconsin, which is a small little town where I actually am sitting in right now of like a population of maybe 2,000. And then from there, you went to Janesville, Wisconsin, where you started to get more into leadership. Then you became an EMS coordinator for Beloit Memorial Hospital, and then got hired in Madison, Wisconsin, where you did division chief of, you did everything there. You did grants, planning, personnel, training, and you were assistant chief and made a great decision to hire me uh, back in 2009 and then retired in 2013, I believe, from Madison. And then are now the director of Illinois Fire Service Institute, which is one of the best, I think, in leading the entire industry in everything from leadership development. You're working with UL on research. Um, you've it's really come full circle for you, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been a great opportunity here. I spent 33 years in the fire service. 2 years before that, as a volunteer in Lodi on the ambulance service, and I can remember being in high school riding the ambulance with other EMTs and other EMS people there, including some of my high school teachers and some of my high school coaches. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and they gave me some direction on how to do that. And it started with being a volunteer, and I just lucked out and got hired by a career department, and then got hired by Madison because I wanted to go to the bigger city and be busier.
And you were, and you did every position there. And I remember sitting in an interview, pretty intimidated by it at the time because I was in my mid 30s, and I'm like, God, I hope they take a chance on me. And I think you were the assistant chief. I think you were assistant chief of personnel at that
Mhm.
point. Do you remember our interview at all?
I do a little bit. I don't think I had to talk the chief Amesqua too much into hiring you. I think you interviewed pretty well. The first question was, tell us a little bit about yourself and why do you want to come here. And I think that if I remember right, you came in with a bit of a portfolio on
Yeah.
some fitness stuff, and how you thought this was going to be a perfect fit for a career, and that you really wanted to contribute to the department. And those were the kind of things, we were looking for good people that wanted to make a difference in the organization. I didn't need to have a bunch of people that like the time off and were looking for something else to do.
He did remember. I did have that book. I still have that book. Maybe someday when I retire, I'll have to bring it back out. And you talk about great people. We've had great conversations, and I feel very honored to be able to reach out with you with any questions behind the scenes, and feel like you've been kind of a mentor along the way. You have a knack for grooming people and putting people in the right spot, and it sounds like you've done that, with Illinois and um, with the Fire Service Institute. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there and kind of where you guys are going and what's your vision for IFSI.
So IFSI is a state fire academy, and it's different than a lot of states. We've actually been here. This is our 99th year in being in existence in some way, shape, or form. We're about to have our 99th fire college. We exist by state statute, so we have a specific statute that says here's what you will do, and our mission statement is really clear. Our mission is to help firefighters do their work, comma, through training, education, information, and research. And the way that statute is written, it gives me a great deal of latitude and opportunity to train firefighters and to do research that helps firefighters do their work. So it's a great opportunity for me, but it's a great place to be because we get to make a difference every day. And we were talking just before the start of the show. It's a great second career for me because I wasn't ready to be done when I left Madison. I was looking for what's next. And I had a number of people tell me, I was applying for chief's jobs around the country, and I figured that I would eventually have success, but they said you really need to stay in education, that it suits you well. And I've been engaged in education almost my entire adult life. So to be able to come here at one of the premier training institutes, last year we saw 58,000 students in outreach across the country. Before COVID, we were in the 60s. Coming here, I've been able to travel internationally, in particular to China, to deliver training in China, and those are things that have been, you know, a tremendous amount of fun, especially for somebody that's a training officer or a trainer at heart. But it's also been a great experience, and it's just it just being lucky sometime. And you probably heard me say this before, it's better to be lucky than good because things come together.
They do, but they also, I wanted to start by talking a little bit about what you're doing there, um, w- with IFSI, because it wasn't always roses, right? Like you went through a very long and successful career in Madison, and then put in for the main job and didn't get it, and and like you said, you weren't ready to be done. And we've talked about this, like, sometimes unanswered prayers, right? Like, take us through that a little bit. Like, what what did you feel, and then, what advice would you have for someone that's kind of doing that? Maybe didn't get that promotion they wanted or didn't get that job, but we still have to provide service and work on ourselves. So, walk us through that a little bit.
So that's a great question. So we all go through life and we have disappointments. You write for lieutenant, and you don't get picked, or you write for lieutenant and instead of being at the top of the list, you're at the bottom of the list, and eventually things will work out. I did apply for the fire chief's job. I had spent my whole career working my way up. Was the number two chief in Madison, and went through the interview process, and there's a panel, and they were looking for certain things. I I think that I was a perfect example of everything that was going right historically, but sometimes organizations want to go in a different direction, or the oversight of the organization thinks that they could do things better. They could have promoted me and kept on the same track that they were. They wanted to go on a different track, and I'm good with that. And I was lucky to hit that point in my career where I had been in the fire service in Wisconsin for 33 years, and it gave me a lot of great experience, and a lot of great knowledge, and uh, opportunities to work across the board, especially being involved in various state committees and things like that. But it also set me up for success wherever I was going to go. And I know that I was going to find something that was going to be a good fit, and had the opportunity to come here, work for a great director, Colonel Royal Mortensen, who was my predecessor. He offered me the position to run the firefighter program, and then a short while later, after they checked me out, and you know how it is, people look great on paper, but you never know what they're going to be like. I had the opportunity to become the deputy director, and I spent the next 8 years being the deputy director, and here I am being the director of the institute, one of the premier research facilities in the country, studying firefighter health, wellness, safety, byproducts of combustion, cancer research. You've met Dr. Farzan Massoud, our director of research, and she's working hard on reinvigorating the program with a great deal of focus on how firefighters are exposed, what they're exposed to, but also how to mitigate the risks, to reduce the chances of cancer. We had a long time experience with Gavin Horn as our director of
Mhm.
research, and Dr. Denise Smith, I see you both nodding and you know them, and they were leaders that set us up for success. Terry Von Thaden and the staff that were here allowed us to work with UL and NIOSH and Kenny Finn and Dan Majikowski and Steve Kerber, and that whole team. And it allows us to be on that cutting edge, that bleeding edge on research for firefighters to make firefighting safer and firefighters healthier. Plus, we have classes that I would put up against anybody. That we teach the whole gambit, but unlike a lot of places, we're not just focused, or we're not focused on certification. We're focused on training and developing experience. You can go a lot of places and have an experience, but what's important are the sets and reps. So when you walk away, you have experience. So you can take that and work that into whatever is going on the scene that you're having, and be able to solve that problem. Because one, there's no 912, and you got to solve the problem, and you see that every day. You got your ladder 2 hat, and no matter what, you're on the fridge of the empire, alone and unafraid, and help's coming, but it's 5, maybe 10 minutes away. You got to solve that problem, and you got to set up the scene for success.
Yeah. Well, and it's clear that you guys are working on a ton of stuff right now. Are there any projects in particular that you want to highlight at IFSI that are either new or something you're ramping up right now?
So I could give you a whole bunch of I could give you a whole book of stuff, but some of the programs that I think that are really exceptional that we have here is that we have a thing called BOF at IFSI, Basic Operations Firefighter Blended. It is a 18-week program focused at volunteers that leverages technology. We just by happenstance kicked it off before COVID started, and thank God we did. One of the areas, 75% of our firefighters in Illinois are volunteers, but that's kind of the statistics wherever you go in the country. And how do you get firefighters, firefighter one certified, and how do you make that available to volunteers? Well, leverage the flipped classroom concept, deliver all the content online, give them a administrative instructor mentor that helps them do their homework, because a lot of times they haven't had that kind of experience, and then bring them together on weekends when they're available. And we do it every other weekend, so it isn't so taxing that you can't do something else. And then we give you 9 practical weekend sessions, and we built that off of our in residence academy, which we give to career departments. And with this fall, we're going to exceed over 1,000 people trained and certified, or eligible for certification in Illinois, that never would have been certified in the past. And that's going to change the complexion of the next generation of the fire service, because the volunteers are all going through this now. And we're going to do the same kind of thing with the company officer program that we have, and use that same pattern. We're doing the same concept with our chief fire officer program now, where they deliver all the content online once a month, and then they physically get together once a month, to do classroom sessions and practical application, ethical, moral decision activities, those kind of things. And I think that that concept of flipping the classroom and making the training available when students want it to a great extent allows them a great deal of flexibility for the volunteer. The other program that I think is second to none is our leadership development and decision making program. Our LDDM is a 7 lines of education that truly gives you a hands-on leadership decision making experience. And it's not about running firegrounds, because everybody wants to do that, but the things that get people in trouble are the ethical, moral decisions that happen every single day throughout your career. And you've got leadership and followership, you got history, traditions, you've got tactical, technical, practical aspects. But you work your way through how to communicate with people, how to convey your message, and how to provide the information when appropriate, and how not to provide information that's not appropriate. And they do that in a Socratic method, so the instructors aren't in front of a classroom all day long lecturing you. They give you a little information, then you break into small group discussions, and you work with your peers through various problem sets. And sometimes there's no one right answer or any right answer, and you have to defend your decision or your position. And it really develops that leadership experience. And you've got to do it on the fly, so you go back to that OODA loop thing, that from Boyd, where you observe, you orient yourself, you decide, and you act. And it's a great opportunity, and it puts you, as some people would say, in the hot seat a lot throughout that. It could be a 5-day class, or it could be a series of half-day classes or one-day classes, depends on whatever you want. And then the last thing I'll highlight is, our RIT program here, our responder intervention training, is second to none. We just had another weekend group from across the country, across the world here during FDIC. They put them on the bus, drive them over, give them the lectures on the bus on the way over. They do practicals all day, and then they ship them back at the end of the day, giving them a flavor of our 5-day RIT class, which truly prepares you for the scenarios of RIT. Most RIT situations, people rescue themselves, or a nearby crew rescue them. What the class we have here trains you to do is for those complex rescues, those situations where you truly have to extricate a firefighter that is trapped in a hostile environment with fire and smoke and confusing radio traffic. And it prepares them, it gives them the experiences that through various friction and activities we create. So it's not the first time when they're on the fire ground and they hear that mayday call.
Now,
So
can
I
anybody
rambled on for a
participate?
while.
Can anybody participate in these, Chief?
Absolutely. We have obviously opportunities in all of our programs for out of state and out of country students to attend. We're focused on Illinois and they get priority, but we always have some spots available in all of our classes that out of state or international students can attend. We just finished RIT today. We had a young man from Delafield, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
We had two firefighters from Canada, a couple of firefighters from Ohio. At the FDIC day, we had firefighters from Germany and Canada. I think we had some from California this week too. So, if there are open spaces, we want to fill them. We want a full class every time, and they get the opportunity. That being said, you don't get the grant covered classes. You don't get the free classes that the Illinois students. You have to pay the cost. But it's that way with all of our classes.
Yeah, but the departments, if they send their members to this, their department's gonna benefit because that member comes back and
Tons of
they
information, tons of experience, and it's that way with any of our classes. Again, you're not coming here to see somebody do something. You're coming here to gain experience yourself, whether it's structural collapse or rope rescue or hazmat or any of our firefighting classes. You're having sets and reps, and you're doing it over and over and over again, and that's how you develop experience. It isn't seeing somebody do it in a video. It isn't watching it on American Heat as you're sitting in the leathers in the TV room. It's doing it, and it's hands-on and developing your own experience and adapting that information we give you so you can take that back to your organization. And we hope you do. And we give you uh, good resources to take back and to practice with your own organization.
and you're all about continuing education, and I think, we previously we talked about, okay, so, coming over or overcoming that maybe that little bit of a hardship with not getting the chief job, but you had your education that to fall back on. I mean, you have, and I kind of botched your bio because there's just so much there. But I mean, you're executive fire officer at National Fire Academy. You're chief fire officer for Center for Public Safety Excellence. You graduated International Association Fire Chiefs Fire Service Director Development Institute. You have your masters. You have your bachelors. Right, like that education drives you throughout your career. Number one, but like you're saying, that's what you're passionate about. What do you think, or what would you tell somebody who, okay, I'm in the fire service, I'm at that lull period, like 5, 6, 7, 8. How do you keep that person invigorated? What would you recommend, and what's a message to that person that you would send out?
So there's a couple of things. One is that, and it's typical stuff. Start with where do you want to go and what do you want to do. And a lot of people go, well, geez, I want to ride tailboard the rest of my life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the question ultimately is, who do you want to work for? And you've heard me say this before. You
Hmm.
need to you need to compete for those positions, and you need to develop yourself for whatever is next. Being a great firefighter is critically important. So you've got to develop the technical skills and you've got to do those jobs. And before I ever got to Madison, I had 10 years of experience on the job in Janesville. And they spent a lot of time and energy and money on us, developing us as firefighters and firefighter paramedics. And being able to travel around the country to take training was invaluable to set me up for success. And then once I got to Madison, I just continued that myself, where I regularly went to FDIC and I regularly went to GEMS and FRI and went to classes that were available whenever I could find them. Because whether you agree with somebody's message or not, you really should go listen to it and learn from it. There's always stuff to take away.
Always something.
And I could go on with reading various materials that come out and books and training opportunities. The internet today is amazing. You can get information on anything that you want without ever having to leave home, but you still have to go get practical experience, whether it's MSA extrication school or Monroe Fire School or Fire College or any of the local training that's available that's out there, Mabish training, things like that. You got to continue to develop yourself and commit yourself to the profession. And when I talk about profession, I don't care if you're paid or volunteer, you're a professional, and a professional holds himself to a standard, and they hold themselves to a higher standard, but they also learn their trade. They learn about all of those things, whether and it's not just one thing. Oh, I'm a hazmat guy, so all I want to learn about hazmat. You're not, because you're still a firefighter. And it's like the Marine Corps, everyone's an infantryman. And everybody's got to be able to fight fire and do it well and be smart. And one of the things I really believe in is that our goal is to develop smart firefighters, because smart firefighters know their job, they can do their job, they know when to be aggressive, they know when to be conservative, and they are constantly relearning and learning what's next. What I learned as a rookie in the late 70s and early 80s, some of that information set the foundation for what I do today, but some of that stuff was myth and inaccurate information that as we study and learn more of the science of fire, we learn things that they used to teach that may not be right. So if you don't continue to reinvest in yourself and develop yourself, you may be working on the current knowledge from 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but that isn't right for today, and that doesn't make you safer, it doesn't make the community safer, it doesn't make the crew safer. You got to constantly reinvest in your learning. My old boss, who was a Marine Corps colonel, used to talk about regreening all the time, and you have to reinvest in that.
That's great. And we hear a theme on the podcast a lot about continuous learning, continuous improvement. But one thing that I'm hearing with you a lot too is taking that knowledge and paying it forward, giving it back, sharing it with other people. And, going back to our original discussion about, you didn't get the top job and the chief position, but that worked out in a sense because you were able to become what my boss, uh, editorial director Greg Fries, likes to call a force multiplier. You were able to move into a position and not only influence a single department, but people around the country and in some cases the world. So I think it's really interesting to hear your story and frame things around this idea of we're not only bettering ourselves but the people around us, and you've seized upon this excuse me excuse me, this opportunity to share your passion for education and learning with a whole new group of people that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Absolutely. And you bring up an excellent point. There are events that occur in our life that are disappointing, and you have to pick a path. And we see some people in the fire service didn't work out. They get frustrated. They check out, and they retire in place. And I can understand it. We've all had experiences that can damage us, but there are also opportunities to reinvent ourselves. And you have to periodically reinvent yourself as you move through your career, because you can't stay the same. And to take those opportunities as they present, and sometimes you don't even realize when they're first presenting themselves, but embrace what you're doing, and do it the best that you can. It may not be the same as anybody else would do it, but do it the best that you can, and take it as far as you can. And you're absolutely right. I could have been chosen to be the fire chief. and I could have had great impact and great opportunities, and I'm not sure where that road would have led, but what it opened up for me here is opportunities to be involved at not only a local level, but a state level, a national level, an international level. And I'm in a position now that I can continue to influence for a generation or two as I set the strategic direction for the organization into the future, to set up my successors for success also. So I look at that all the time and think that geez, it's good to be me.
Yeah. Well, and now think about it, like, you're setting up kind of a framework for the entire fire service, because what you're learning with your research is changing sometimes policies. It's changing the way that we respond, because we now have data based off of what's going on your campus. That's got to be a cool feeling, right?
Oh,
Like
it's
you're
it, I'd have never had the opportunity being on the fire department to do some of the kind of research things that we've done here, that we continue to do here. And you're right, but the key component with that is the translation from science and journals to firefighterese. And
Yep.
we've got to continue to get that stuff out, whether it's the insert in one of the magazines, whether it's disseminating articles in magazines, whether it's the lavender report, or any of those kind of documents that are out there. And we have to renew the information that people had previously learned, so that they understand that some of the things that we always thought were true may not be true. And the prime example that I use is, geez, I'm a hardworking, salty firefighter. I'm wearing my gear in the station. I got a little soot on me, and my helmet is dirty, and this is a great thing. Well, we've learned that that's not true. That you need to clean your gear regularly. You need to especially clean your gear after structure fires. You shouldn't wear it into living spaces. You shouldn't eat anything without washing yourself up. And you should always shower within an hour of being exposed, because if we do gross decon and if we shower, we can significantly reduce the exposure to those byproducts of combustion, that some of them are proven to be bad for us, and some of them the jury's still out. It doesn't mean that they're good, it doesn't mean that they're safe, but it just doesn't mean that we have enough information. And as we progress in science, in particular, as we collect more and more data through the firefighter registry, cancer registry, and the exposures, we're going to have a lot more data
Yeah.
on what's good and what's bad, and what makes sense and what doesn't. I started in a time where SCBAs were new, and as a young guy, I would never imagine going into a fire without one. But I had guys, older guys, that were mentors of mine, that were great firefighters, and they wore them on their back, and they were in there, and as soon as they came out, they had to have a cigarette to clear their lungs,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys aren't here anymore, and I wish they were.
Yeah, I remember, like, the stories, obviously being in Madison with you, your job as a rookie was to empty all the ashtrays every morning, right? Like,
Oh
there would be
God,
an
yeah.
yeah. Yep,
And
and that's totally changed, obviously, but it's based off of data. People started to say,
yes.
"All right, the smoking's bad for you. Hey, breathing all the different carcinogens on the fire ground are bad for you." I mean, what's another thing we're kind of missing that you now um with your exposure to all of the different data and things that you've seen, what's another message you would be you want us to get?
So I'm going to toss you a softball, because it's really an important one. You have to maintain your fitness, because
Yeah.
I've gotten old, and I've gotten a little heavier than I should, and I go up and down a lot more than when I was on the job. But that investing in your fitness and conditioning when you're younger pays dividends as you get older. and you have to do it smart. There were times that I'm working out with Chief Price, and we're going to see how much we can lift, and
Yeah.
that's probably not a good idea anymore.
He's an Olympic, former Olympic and pro football player. So yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
right.
and we're
Yep.
going to see we're going to really push ourselves, and even and one of the things he taught me was don't be doing that.
Yeah.
That's not smart. But the fact of the matter is, being in better shape, watching how you eat, watching what again, food isn't always for enjoyment, though it is. It's fuel, and picking the right fuel for the machine. And to talk your language, we are competitive athletes in the fire service, and we have to maintain our strength. We have to maintain our flexibility. We have to maintain our agility. And if we do all of those things younger, it's easier to do those when you're older. And the whole goal of this is to come out on the other end and have a long and happy retirement.
Yep.
And
Enjoy it.
whether you're a volunteer or professional, you still have those days where you're not going to go in anymore. And that's okay. There's younger people to do that, younger men and women. And how do we set the example for them to follow? And I'm still going to love to have a malt at lunch every once in a while, because that's what we do. But you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And again, keep yourself up to date on the science of firefighting, the information and the technology that continues to improve firefighter safety and ability to do our job. But also, you've got to invest in yourself, not only in your education but in your conditioning and your fitness, because that's gonna hold off a lot of the bad stuff that makes you more vulnerable when you get emphysema, when you get diabetes or pre-diabetes, when you have hypertension, uh, when you have heart conditions. All of those things make you susceptible to other things. And to pay attention and to invest in yourself is an investment in your organization and an investment in your crew. And I knew you'd like that, but it's just fact.
Yep. Yeah. There's data behind that.
Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
does IFSI? I know that you have some great fitness stuff in your academies. Any interesting research coming up on that at all?
Well, we started. That was the beginning of IFSI research in the mid to late '80s with Dr. Denise Smith, when she was working on her doctorate on fitness and hydration. And Richard
Right on.
Kessler, who used to be part of our team, who's now moved over to UL, and they steal some of our people, and I'm proud of that. Because we have some really good people. That fitness component, we have collected data on a number of different firefighting classes, in particular the academy, but others, um, and looked at what role fitness plays in firefighter success. And we know that maintaining fitness and hydration makes a difference on cardiovascular health. We
Mhm.
know, because of the research that Denise Smith has done, that um, firefighters that go into structural fires or live fire scenarios, the impact on their cardiovascular system is significant. It literally changes the elasticity of the blood vessels for a period of time after the fire, changes the coagulopathy, the ability, or it makes the body want to have those things that cause our heart attacks. um, and by maintaining your fitness and by maintaining your hydration, you mitigate significantly the risk of having that heart attack after a fire. Once I read through the research, I understand why 24 hours after a fire somebody's having a heart attack,
Right.
because they've done things to the body that takes time to recover from. And if you're in an organization that's going to structure fires more regularly, or you're just unlucky and you got two in a row, that just magnifies that potential for problems. So you can't wait till the fire to be hydrated. You got to get hydrated all day long and be ready. Even if you don't need it, you got to be ready.
Yeah. And you guys, I mean, you have a great position there where I know we've talked about how you try to embed that in every single drill and every single training that you do. It doesn't have to be, a live fire. It could be
Right.
anything, any type of training. And I know that we've talked a lot about how, yeah, you're doing a drill on forcible entry or ventilation or whatever it is, but you can use that time to also hit these points home, like staying hydrated, staying mobile, and staying fit, not only physically, but that helps mentally. And you know, it's it's great to hear you say that because you see the research, and we all know it. It's just that application period part of it. And I think the more messages we can get, the better off we're going to be. We other thing that you and I and of course for those that are listening, I have a pretty good direct connect to Chief, and he's been a sounding board for many years. But what about emotional intelligence? You said that you guys have developed a leadership program, and it sounds like that's one of the things that you guys focus on is how to emotionally connect and read people, right?
So it begins in the very beginning of the academy. Everybody's a leader. Even though you're a new firefighter, we talk about leadership, but we also talk about followership, and we stress that. And um, classes, you get to practice that, because at different times different people fill different roles, and you know how it is. You're going to be in charge of this drill, you're going to be in charge of the crew this time, and being able to mentor people in the class by experienced instructors. Our student instructor ratio tends to be uh, many instructors for a low number of students. We have classes that the instructor ratio is one instructor for two students, depending on the kind of class. That RIT class is two students for every instructor,
Hmm.
and that way they can guide them through things and coach them along. And in the academy, they got to crawl, walk, run. They got to go slow in the beginning. They got to get the muscle memory. They got to get the practice, and they got to work their way up to where they're doing multiple company drills or multiple company exercises under real life simulation. We talk about high fidelity simulation all the time in the fire service, or in emergency response. We've done high fidelity simulation for years with structure fires and training fires and house burns and those kind of things. You can't get more realistic than going into a real fire, and it creates that friction. But you got to do it in a sequence and an order. You can't. It's one thing to take a group of brand new recruits into a live burn scenario to watch fire behavior, and all of you sit on the floor here and watch what happens so you understand it. It's another to take them in the first week and expect that they're going to be able to do search perfectly. It isn't going to happen. So we have to walk people through that. And and there are opportunities in all classes to develop leadership skills, to give people opportunities to make decisions. you know uh, an engine operation, what are you going to do? What lines are they going to use, and why are they using the lines, and why is it important to flow a certain GPM at the nozzle, giving somebody the ability, or why in an officer class or a firefighting class is as important to rotate who's leading the crew in, who's
Hmm.
talking on the radio, who's giving those kind of directions. It's opportunities to develop and grow younger people. And you saw it in Madison. I know you did, because at some point in time when you were riding backwards, somebody said, Aaron, you're going to drive today for a while. I'm going to sit behind you and you're going to ride the seat. And yeah, you're going to take us to the grocery store and you're going to bring us back. and eventually, maybe I'll let you drive on a call once I'm comfortable with, the size of the vehicle. We have to develop that slowly. And then you're driving today, and the officer says, "You're going to ride over on the right. I'm going to drive." Or we're going to have him drive, and I'm going to sit behind you, and you're going to talk on the radio, and you're going to be the officer, and you're going to do a couple of EMS calls, and you're going to, if something big goes on, I'm here to back you up.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
you're not doing it the first time. So,
Yeah,
it's it's
you know my
development.
officer, you know that happened a lot because you know my officer, you trained him. Yeah, but you're right, and this is where another theme, and Janelle is smiling because it talks about we've there's another theme that we have about being better means that you have to get out of your comfort zone,
You
and
you only
right, like
grow when you're uncomfortable.
yeah,
You don't grow when you're in your comfort zone. And I can remember, when I first became a paramedic and I was uncomfortable. I can remember the first few times when I was driving the rig and being uncomfortable, but you get better. And the advantage we have as firefighters, or being part of the fire service, is you got a team of people that got your back all the time.
yeah,
They're not going to let you screw up, or they aren't going to let you screw up in a way that's not recoverable. And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Nothing wrong with making bad decisions, because if you never take risk, if you never push yourself to get out, not only get outside your comfort zone, but try different things, you don't grow, you don't develop. And that distress and distress bad, eustress makes you better, makes you stronger. If you're working out and all you're doing is 3 pound dumbbells all day long, you're not developing muscle, you're just
exactly.
playing
You don't
along.
grow. Yep, you
you
don't
know
grow without that stimulus.
you gotta be that Lieutenant Kaltenberg sitting there watching TV with his 50-pound dumbbell, um,
Yeah,
and then switching sides and going to the next side. And you gotta push yourself to grow, whether it's muscle, whether it's brain, whether it's
emotional.
experience. You gotta push yourself. You gotta get outside your comfort zone.
Well, and I'd like to connect the dots here amongst a few things we're talking about, emotional intelligence, right? And then also your passion for instruction and what you see in other people. I'd also like to jump in here and say, you're single handedly responsible for unleashing Aaron on the world. So thank you.
I
But
don't
you
know about
saw
that.
something in Aaron, and you are good at identifying who needs to be where. Um, and so, again, connecting the dots here with the getting outside the comfort zone, how do you identify what tips do you have for when you see someone who needs to be pushed and someone who has potential in them and you want to grow them?
So that's an excellent question, and all fire departments should hire the right people for the job. I can train people to do firefighting, but I can't train you to be a good person and a committed person. It you it's in you. Either you have it, either you learned it in kindergarten, or your mom and dad got you there, or maybe not. And not everybody's suited for this line of work. But if you want to commit yourself, if you want to have the right mindset, I can train you to pull a hose. I can train you to raise a ladder. I don't. I can. And Aaron will, I think, back me up. I can help you develop the strength and the flexibility to do a lot of things. What I can't train you to do is to be inquisitive and to be committed and to have the right mindset. And that's what the interview process is, whether you're being interviewed for a volunteer organization or a career organization. I'm looking at all the people, and I'm always thinking, what is the potential? And Aaron will reinforce this. When the first day of their academy, I told them all that your impact on the fire service is much greater than mine, because I'm at the end of my career and you're at the start of yours. You're going to be the next company officer. You're going to be the next training officer. You're going to be the next chief. And they all laugh at me. But Aaron Zamzow, next company officer now. I look at the command staff in Madison. A majority of them were recruits in during the time I was in training. I'm gone. I'm a memory to that organization. Hopefully a good memory, but I don't know. But it's setting people up for success, and putting them on that right path, and then and we talk about this all the time, helping them to find their way, because there are a lot of stumbling blocks in your early career before you have truly become who you're going to become. And having good company officers and good drivers, and the barn boss and the senior firefighter that help you stay out of trouble early on and make good choices, like your parents said, make good choices. And you got to tie yourself up with those people. And don't get me wrong, there are curmudgeons in every department and e- every area. If you tied yourself up with the wrong people, they're going to lead you astray, and you're going to be disappointed. Where if you tie yourself up with the right people, if you find those mentors that are going to guide you to be successful, you're going to have a long and happy career. But you also talk about emotional intelligence. Part of what you have to realize is, no matter what we do in the fire service, it's a temp gig, and you have to find a life, and you have to find balance, not just being, I'm a firefighter and that's all I'll ever be. You've got to invest in your relationships. You got to invest in your children and your friends, and you can't have only friends on the fire department. You have to expand, because at some point in time, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it's gone. And you have to have investment into your mental health too, and your resiliency. And we talk a lot about resiliency, and now not everybody knows what that means, but part of your resiliency is having things that you find enjoyment and pleasure with outside of the fire service, and also investing in your health and fitness, because that helps you manage the things that we experience in the fire department that could lead you to unhealthy habits and unhealthy mindsets. And you have to realize that there are always choices, and you're not going to be perfect, and you're not going to hit home runs every time, but you got to try, and reset yourself when you find that, geez, I'm having a little bit too much ice cream lately. I better put that scoop away, and maybe I'm gonna go with something a little healthier today.
Yes, yes, or tequila, or beer, or whatever that might
Yeah,
be,
whatever
right?
that might be.
Yep, yeah, everything in moderation. And I think that's a great summary of the lessons that I've been taught by you and by your example, and continually educate, evaluate, put good people and things around you, and then trust people to do their job, right? And they can't do their job, then you got to train them to do it, and
Right.
and give them those
And
tools.
and that's a key point. If somebody's not meeting expectations, you gotta work with them. You can't just give up on them, and you got to constantly, as leaders, we're responsible to try to make everybody the best they can be. Not everybody's going to be the same, but the goal is to get everybody to as high a level of productivity and performance that they can be. I'll never be an Aaron Zamzow working out. I'm just not there anymore. But I can be the best that I can be in whatever area that is.
I'm never gonna have the brain power of a Chief Keiken, but together we're gonna be pretty devastating, I think, right?
That's why we work as a team, and
That's
we all
why.
have different skills and assets and abilities we bring together. and we're in this together. And that's one of the things I really love about the fire service is, you know, don't don't for a minute think that I'm the best there is, because I know that I'm not. But I have great people around me. I have great instructors across the state. I have a great leadership team, and my job is to make things work for them and to help them not only to grow but to get their job done and stay out of their way. There's so many things that I, as a leader, you can meddle in, but really should you? And if the officer is doing firefighter work, who's doing the officer work? If the chief is doing lieutenant or captain work, who's doing the chief work? And you got to remind yourself that I got it, that's fun, or that's more comfortable, but I gotta stay in my lane, and I've got to do my job where I am. And my job here is to enable people's success, just as it was when I was one of the assistant chiefs. It was to set people up for success and give you what you need to the best I can, realizing you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. Y- you know, I gotta help you. I
Yeah.
gotta help you to be successful.
And support, right? And I think, like you said, when you're a team, you support each other,
Yep,
and vice versa. I got to help you, you know, with your vision too at
right.
times, right? And
I
we
gotta
work.
tell you what my vision is. I've
That's the
gotta
other
tell you
part of
the
it.
expectations.
Yep.
As a leader, we're responsible to tell you the expectations, what you can expect from me, what I expect from you, and what you cannot do, my unrecoverables. That's what I call, or that's what the military calls, a command philosophy. I've got to tell you what my command philosophy is, so you can meet those expectations. And if I don't tell you, I can't be unhappy if you're not meeting them, because you're doing the best you can. So I got to tell you what I expect. Know your job, do your job.
Yeah.
When
Teach
when
me
you
what that
come to me
job
to
is.
make decisions, chances are it could probably be made at a lower level, and people are always happier when decisions are made at the lowest level possible.
Yep. Yeah. Just take care of it. So, and speaking of which, my job now is to take all of this great information that we've had and summarize it with a quick um, thank you for your knowledge. Number one, number two, I think you had hit on pretty much every single leadership lesson that we've talked about the last year on this podcast, but brought it together very eloquently. And but you're not done yet. We still have one little thing that we do on this podcast, and that's we put you in the hot seat. We ask you some fun personal questions, quick kind of rapid fire. I always say that, and then I ask something that's not rapid fire, but that's just me. But again, Chief, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for again your knowledge and I've heard it numerous times from you, and every time I do, I get more fired up to just be better after our conversations. But I have one question for you. I want to. Can I lead the hot seat today, Janelle? If I
Oh, yeah.
okay. Uh, so you've been a mentor for a lot of people, and you help inspire and educate. Who inspires you?
It's a great question. And I could rattle off um, Terry Sheridan and Bob Howard and Jim Apple and Gordy Rasmussen and Dave Daggett and Deborah Mesqua and Marshall Holtz and all of those people that came before me in Madison. And there's tons of people here. I get to work with some of the most unbelievable people in the world here, and we all got to where we are on the shoulders of giants. And we've all had tremendous mentors, and some of them were just our peers. Ron Schwen, Art Price, Ernie Martinez. And the list can go on and on. I could bring out a book and list them all. But we have to realize that we're we're here because of everybody that came before us, and we have to leave things better when we leave for the people after us, and set them up for success. and hopefully, and you've been very gracious and very kind, and all of your comments, but hopefully I gave you something that will help you be successful through the rest of your career, and then you can pass that on to some other kid that comes and gets on your nerves because they're a little over enthusiastic, and you go, where in the world did these kids come from? They'll never be successful in the fire service. They're not like we were. Well, the fact of the matter is they are going to be successful because they have to be. They're the next generation, and we have to realize that.
All right. Well, changing gears just a little bit. You were talking about balance before and the need to work, have work-life balance. What is your passion outside of the fire service? Do you have a hobby that is your go-to, I need to disconnect?
I wish I could tell you that my hobby is fitness. Uh, and I do it, but I at times do it grudgingly. I'm truly a fair weather exerciser, even though I have a universal gym in the basement and an elliptical down there, and I use it, but not as much as I should. But there are things that I like to do. I like to play in the garage and make sawdust, and my wife thinks it's not so much that, but I like to buy tools. I like to play on the computer, I look at your setup a little bit. I've got some of the same toys that you have for video and computers and technology. About a year ago, I picked up a 3D printer, and
Oh, cool.
that thing will run, 12, 24, 36 hours in days in a row as I play with stuff and make stuff for the garage, of course.
Uh-huh. Right.
Um,
If you can't
and
buy the tools, you gotta make them.
well, I could buy them, but why buy them when I can make them?
Right.
Can you
And
like
there's always some
3D
new
print a
software.
halogen?
Can I make a Halligan? Yes, but it won't be very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't mastered that welding and that kind of stuff. So I like to putz around and just do stuff. I like to spend time with my wife and my children and my family. Though my children have grown up, but we get to see my daughter a lot, and we talk to my son, who's a Marine, quite a bit. So you know, uh, have tried to take my advice and invest in things outside the fire department, so I have things to do beyond the fire service. Because some point in time, I'm not going to be the director. I'm gonna go into the life of leisure.
All
Well,
right.
hopefully not anytime soon, I think, right? We're not ready for that yet.
No, we're not ready for that.
Uh, Speaking of roles, your role as a director right now, what's been your favorite role that you've had through your is it how many years now? Is it 40 years in the
40,
fire service?
43, 44 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your
It,
favorite role that you've had?
you know, I would say all of them. I loved being a firefighter and doing the firefighter stuff. I love being a firefighter paramedic and having an impact on people's lives. I love being an officer and a chief officer and having impact. I found satisfaction all in all of my roles. I also found dissatisfaction at times in all of my roles. I would say that right now the greatest pleasure I get is bragging about the institute and how great the people are around here, and the kind of work that we do. But I also love bragging about the Madison Fire Department and what a great department, and what an exemplary department it is and was, when I was there. So you know, there's great things in all of it. It's keeping it in perspective and not losing track. We all have bad days. We all make dumb mistakes. We all make mistakes. But I think it speaks volume how you recover from mistakes, and how I've always been, and Aaron knows this, a half full glass guy. That things are good and things will get better. If they aren't good now, we're just not there yet, and keep working at it.
Keep working.
That's great. All right, Aaron, is it okay if I bring us home with a really deep and profound question?
Uh-oh.
Um, this is a big one. Can you just tell us some really embarrassing Aaron stories from early? No one's listening. It's just us.
It's just us.
It's just us. But yeah, please
There
give
was
us some
no,
spill the
I
tea.
can't talk about that time. But there, no, I can't talk about that time. You
You
know,
can talk about all of them.
there's, Aaron's always been even though he has passion and enthusiasm, he's always been a bit of the adult in the room. He's always been a little more mature than some of the others, but he's always found a way to have a good time with the people. He was always fun to work with.
Are we talking
I
about the
cannot,
same Aaron
I can't
in
think of a time that
Zamcow?
I chewed him out in the academy. I can't think of a time that I chewed him out as a chief. Um,
I am
you know,
surprised.
Yeah.
I am
Well, no, you gotta
shocked.
I was on probation for most of the time that he was the chief, so I was in my best behavior too. Let's just for those people that think that he's lying, he's not lying. I was on probation and probably double secret probation in a lot of cases. Right, chief? Because I think you know, we went through the academy and I was a little bit older. I was than most people in my class. And so, I think the life
but you weren't
experience
the
helped.
oldest we hired.
Yeah, correct. Right there.
50 years old, was our oldest while I was there,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
he stayed another 15 years,
Yeah. Is
and
that
he was
Pete?
an asset to the organization his entire time there.
Yeah, Pete, right? Trilling?
Yep, Pete.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. One of the wonderful things about the fire service is that in Madison, we do a great job of hiring very diverse backgrounds, and we hired. He was an FBI agent. um,
FBI agent, Secret Service agent, retired, LA City Police
Police,
captain.
right, and then came
Well,
to the fire service and went through the academy at age 50
yeah,
I mean, just
did fine.
an incredible individual, and I think that that brings it back full circle is that the fire service and chief, we've had these great conversations. You have unbelievable people that work for you,
Oh,
and and there are unbelievable people in the fire service. Janelle, you get to meet and talk to a lot of them and see them, and um, just trying to build on what Chief said about being optimistic. There are things that we need to improve on in the fire service, but when you look down at the people and leaders like Chief Keiken and those that we surround ourselves with on the show, it's truly I feel I have really good feelings about the future. And you said sometimes we're going to be challenged, Chief, and it's just a matter of overcoming them because there is no choice. We have to train the next generation.
we absolutely do. And if you go to our website, fsi.illinois.edu, and look in the leadership area and look at all of our program managers and program directors, they're all subject matter experts in the country. Many of them are on FPA committees. Many of them are doing things that no one else is doing, and they're building just what you said, the next generation. So from the newest basic instructor that comes in, they're being developed by all of these people that are experts in their own right. I have retired commissioners of the Chicago Fire Department. I have chiefs from across the state. I have firefighters and firefighter paramedics and people from literally all walks of the fire service that are part of our staff here, and they're developing all of those people not only in class but those young instructors that have followed them, and a lot of those experts were young instructors in their own time and were brought up by people that were before them. Again, Eddie Enright says all the time that and he's a retired deputy chief from the city of Chicago. We're on the shoulders of all of those that came before us, and we can't let them down. We have to commit to develop that next group of people, whether they seem like they're 12-year-old kids or not. They're probably not. We just got old. but we have to invest our time and energy into them because they're all going to take our place, and they're gonna have to develop the next generation after that.
Well,
I think
thank you
that's
for investing your time in Aaron and hiring him. We've
I
got
was
two
just
force multipliers on this call now.
yeah. Oh, well, and I was just gonna say thanks for taking a chance on me. My career has obviously um, taken an unbelievable path, and I feel like I have the greatest job, maybe the second greatest job behind yours, and I get to talk to all the leaders of the fire service, including yourself, and I just get continually fired up every single day. And I hope those listening have and take some of Chief Keegan's knowledge. They How can they reach you, Chief, if they have any questions about
You know,
services?
they can get a hold of me at our website, fsi.illinois.edu. I'm under the leadership team. There's a click, there's a phone number, and email link. JKEIKEN at illinois.edu is my email. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about anything. And again, I'm not telling you I'm going to know anything about it, but I got people.
He's got
I got
people.
lots of people here.
He's got people, and he is great people. Thanks, Chief, so much for your time, for your knowledge, again for taking a chance. For those of you that are listening to this, you can actually watch on the Fire Rescue One YouTube page. You can also watch us at firerescue1.com. You can email us at the show. Tell us if you like what we're doing, if you want to see more, if you want to see different things at Better Every Shift at firerescue1.com. Please rate, review the show, reach out to us. But most importantly, make sure that you learn something, do something, share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks so much for listening.